Chief Iwa, good evening. Thanks very much for your time. It was one of those, he didn't say a lot, but boasted about the fact that they are putting their money where their mouths are, and they are giving you all the help you need to grow this industry. Was he speaking the truth?
Look, things have improved, over the past year in terms of our relationship as a tourism industry and government. In general, more specifically, the departments that touches tourism. Point in case is Home Affairs. Our relationship with Home Affairs have improved greatly. So there are lots of things that they have done to improve the tourism industry, and there are still a whole lot more things that they need to do.
Let's talk about those that they have done. What have they done?
Well, one of the things that the Home Affairs have done is, number one, the issue around the visa waivers that have been issued. We've been talking about New Zealand, that it was one of our greatest markets. Coming from that part of the world. The fact that now we have, issued a visa waiver, it goes on very well, with us in the tourism industry. And also other countries, like Saudi Arabia, they may not have big numbers, but they show potential, in terms of bringing large sums of, money into the country.
But your interest, if I understand correctly, is in places like India, it's in China, Nigeria. Now, but a cursory look at the list of countries where visas have been waived, I'm talking about like Cuba, and I'm not sure if that's really where you would want the focus to be.
No, absolutely. We do want the focus to be on countries that have, high potential to bring tourists. And you're quite correct. China, India, we've identified, those two countries through the plan that we submitted to the presidency that identified that we can double the number of tourists to 21 million. So we either need to issue, a visa waiver for China or improve the capacity, in China to make sure that we can issue the visas. It's one of the biggest things that we've been discussing with Home Affairs. And I had a discussion with the DG of Home Affairs, some few days ago. And he did tell me that he's going to be traveling to China. He's going to improve capacity in China because we want to see at least 1 million Chinese tourists coming into this country by 2030. That will translate into jobs.
And you're not going to achieve that by having 3 Home Affairs officials in Beijing, in a country of 1.46 billion people?
Absolutely. We're never going to achieve that. If you look at other countries that are playing in that market, Australia, they've already achieved their goal that they set for themselves for 2020. They achieved it last year, in terms of number of Chinese tourists that goes to Australia. So we're still getting around 95,000, Chinese.
But what are they doing that we are not doing?
So one thing that Australia does very well is that they hunt as a pack. So what we are doing now as a private sector and government is to get together and say, how do we hunt better? How do we identify proper markets? How do we, invest the marketing funds that we have, how do we invest those properly to make sure that we can get the maximum benefit out of it? Other countries may have bigger budgets, but our rand, when you translate it to dollars, to other international currencies, it becomes very small. So what we need to do is to make sure that we're very, very smart with the amount of money that we have, and then we market efficiently and make sure that we receive those numbers. So for us, it's a challenge, but we still need to do what we can do to improve those numbers. And we believe that if we can open up, our visa regime and let those tourists come to South Africa easier, it will make more sense. The whole issue around e-visa, if we can make that dynamic, translate it into Mandarin or Cantonese, so that the people in China can be able to apply, and then the system can adjudicate faster, then we will be considered, as one of the favorable destinations. So for now, we're still using manual processes, and those processes take a long time. And some people wouldn't even want to consider us because, they look at the manual process and say, well, why should I go there if I can go to a place where it's automatic? So we need to be robust when it comes to that. And Home Affairs have done some work on it, and they did talk about introduction of e-visa. We want to see the e-visa that works efficiently.
But they have been talking about it for a while. Wasn't there a pilot project or something?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a pilot project in New Zealand. Now the pilot project is going to be done in Kenya. I believe that they are in a process of doing that. But we want it to be done in a larger scale. If you look at other countries like, if you want to go to Turkey, You know, you go and apply now. Before you go to sleep, you will have your e-visa. So we need to make sure that our systems are dynamic. And we need to make sure that it's not just a platform where you can upload forms and it still takes a long time to adjudicate. So we need to shorten the time for adjudication. We need to make sure that people can print their visas. We need to make sure that when they arrive at the airport here, the system can recognize those visas. So there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done. And we've been saying as a tourism industry, you know, let's copy with pride. There are countries that have done this, and they've done this successfully. Why can't we copy those systems and implement? Because they're already there and they're ready to be implemented. So we need to do something towards that.
Now, if you're saying the relations have improved significantly between you and government, whether it's Home Affairs or Tourism Department, one would have thought that you would have a better understanding than the rest of us as to why the visa pilot project hasn't even begun. Because we would have thought that by now we would be talking about implementation, or at the very least, no, there's a problem here or there, we're trying to fix that, and as soon as that is done, this will be rolled out. But you're telling me now that even the pilot project hasn't started.
No, as far as we know, you know, it hasn't started and we haven't seen the system.
Do you know why?
Well, we are told that it's being implemented. The president has seen the pilot program. He has talked about it, that he has seen what it can do. But from our side, and we've been talking to Home Affairs to say, let us see the system, let us make sure that it's world-class, because the president said it's going to be a world-class system. And when we say world-class, it means that it has to be comparable to other countries that do similar things. So we still need to see that, and that's why we've been engaging with Home Affairs. And when I say that the relationship has improved, in the past, we were never talking. You know, we were talking through, you know, media. Now we can talk face-to-face or exchange phone calls or messages to say what's going on with this, and then they give us information faster. So that has improved greatly. And there's a lot of attention now on tourism because it's also, you know, from the president has been put in a top, you know, priority, you know, industry because of its potential to create jobs. So the things that we're working on is saying, let's have a robust system, you know, to issue visas, the e-visa that works. That's world-class. Let's make sure that where we cannot do, you know, e-visas, where we still need people to, you know, to go to the offices, let's make sure that there's capacity. There's no point in us marketing in countries and trying to encourage people to come to South Africa. And when they go and apply for visa, we can't even process the visas. There's no point, you know, in that. And also, we need to consider more countries for visa waivers. There are countries that are in, if you look at countries in Eastern Europe, that are part of EU, you know, we need to look at those countries and, you know, issue those visa waivers because, you know, we believe that there's a great potential, you know, from those countries. We also have people that live in the US, UK, that are permanent residents of those countries or green card holders, you know, and also there are other people in China that are holders of other visas. We think that those people must be given a space, you know, easier way to come to South Africa. So let's recognize other visas from countries that have stringent rules. So if you are Chinese and then you have a US visa on your passport, you know, you've already gone through a process. So let's find a way of recognizing those visas. Let's find a way of recognizing those green card holders or permanent residents that are living in those countries that may not be citizens. If they want to come to South Africa, let's not treat them as if they're staying in their home country. We need to have a dispensation for that. And we believe that if we do these things that we have suggested, we should be able to see some results, you know, quite fast. And we need to see results fast. We don't have any more time. We all have seen the situation with the jobs. We need to create jobs, and tourism is the industry that has the potential to create jobs. And we have identified that we can create at least 2 million jobs if we reach the 21 million number.
Well, let's hope that the government moves a lot faster than it seems to be moving right now. Thanks very much for coming through. Tourism Business Council of South Africa CEO, Chifiwa Chibengwa.